Chapter 4. A Hero for Fun. For a while, there were no sides. No Darkseid, no League, no slaves, no tyrant, no watchful god in a chair. There was only impact. Saitama and Darkseid traded blows on the cracking days, while Apokolips shuddered around them. Each punch was a full stop in the story of the planet. Each counterpunch was a new paragraph, written in collapsing stone and boiling magma. Darkseid drove a fist into Saitama's ribs. Saitama's body bent with it, sliding sideways, gouging a trench. The air turned sharp and thin in his lungs. For a second, he actually had to draw a breath on purpose. Saitama's eyes lit just a little. He came back with a hook. The punch hit Darkseid in the side, right under the ribs no anatomy chart had ever seen. The sound was like a continent cracking. A ripple ran up Darkseid's torso, his stone flesh warping, then snapping back. He did not fall. He did move, though. He slid backward, heels digging deep. At the edge of the pit, Batman watched, half his attention already on the network schematic Cyborg was feeding him through augmented lenses. "Cyborg," he said. "Status." Cyborg stood at the lip of a control mode he had torn out of the wall, cables plugged into his arm. Lines of alien code poured across his vision, soaked with Apokolips' ugly logic. "Good news," he said. "I have root access to your favorite hell world." "And the bad news?" Green Lantern asked, still bracing the shield overhead. His ring hummed at a shrill pitch now. "The entire planet is one big do not push this button," Cyborg said. "Shut down, too much too fast, and the furnaces go wild. Do nothing, and Darkseid keeps his toy." "Compromise," Batman said. "Target slave control systems and war factories first. Leave core structural supports and atmosphere generators alone. For now." Cyborg grinned despite the situation. "I love it when you talk dirty." He fed commands into the network. Deep inside Apokolips, things that had never been turned off flickered for the first time. Control circuits that fed obedience pulses to slave collars went silent. Some of the giant assembly lines shuddered to a stop. Factory sirens screamed in confusion. In the pits, the metal collars around the slaves' necks crackled once, then died. The scarred woman ripped hers off, tossing it aside. She screamed. It was not a scream of fear. Others took it up, a raw, hoarse sound that had nothing to do with Darkseid's name, and everything to do with something they had nearly forgotten how to express. Defiance. Lantern's shield shimmered but held. "Okay," he muttered, teeth clenched. "We have a crowd discovering free will under a dome. A planet having a nervous breakdown, and a bald die punching a god so hard my ring keeps trying to classify him as an environmental hazard." "Held it together," Wonder Woman said. She stood at the edge of the dais, shield up, sword hilt still in her hand even though the blade was broken. She watched Saitama and Darkseid trade blows with a warrior's eye. "They are pushing each other past their usual patterns," she said quietly. "Darkseid has not been forced to fight like this in ages." "And Saitama?" Superman asked. She watched as Saitama slipped under a wild, heavy swing, pivoted in, and drove a straight shot into Darkseid's abdomen that made the tyrant grunt. "He seems," she searched for the word, "awake." Darkseid's thoughts were not often interrupted. He was the interruption. He was the force that stepped into other narratives and made them about him. He had no equals in his own mind, only obstacles and raw material. Yet here he was, planning his next move instead of savoring a victory. The anomaly was faster than he had first calculated, harder than expected, and worse, apparently unconcerned with every existential weapon Darkseid usually deployed. Omega beams failed, Sanction failed, Anti-Life glanced off, finding no leverage. So now it came down to the basic language all gods spoke when the philosophy and spectacle ran dry. Fists. Darkseid swung a hammer blow at Saitama's shoulder, putting enough force behind it to flatten a small godly pantheon. Saitama moved his head half an inch. The fist brushed his shoulder instead of crushing it. Pain flared along his collarbone, sharp and hot. He hissed. Okay, he said. "That one was pretty good," he answered with a jab. It looked almost lazy. No wind up, no full step, just a flick of his arm. Darkseid's head snapped back. The world stuttered. He felt teeth crack, then regrow as his body refused to accept damage, but the sensation of being rocked stayed with him. He wiped a trace of dark light from his lip and looked at it, then at Saitama. "You enjoy this," Darkseid said. "A little," Saitama admitted. He had not meant to. He had not set out to Apokolips looking for a thrill. He wanted discounted beef, a quiet life, maybe a sale on replacement gloves, but his body thrummed. His muscles buzzed with an edge he had not felt in years. His heart pounded in his ears, not in panic, but in that old rhythm he had half forgotten, the rhythm of a good fight. He thought back to all the monsters that had exploded in one punch, the dragon-level threats he had erased without effort, the way his chest had always felt empty afterward. He punched Darkseid again. The god staggered. Yeah, this was different. This was a test of his power. High above the chaos, Barda hovered between choices. Below, Saitama and Darkseid smashed each other around the days. Towers fell. The fortress of her childhood cracked, beams groaning. The slave pits were alive with motion, not the sick rhythm of labor, but the jagged pattern of a riot. In her ear, Granny Goodness screamed through a backup channel. But it was this day where the tide was blowing around with problems of pain, a picture of mad disturbed. "You will drag that bald worm to me in chains. You will obey my training." The old commands rose like ghosts. Kneel, obey, break, crush. Barda switched off the channel. She watched Saitama plant his feet, take a blow that would have leveled the city-sized orphanage she had grown up in, then grin. He looked ridiculous. He also looked free. Something inside her rusted armor, there in the center of her chest, cracked. She pointed her spear upward and shouted to the remaining parademons nearby. "You heard Darkseid," she yelled. "Kill the anomaly. Break the lead. Leave the slaves." They turned toward her, ready to obey. "New orders," Barda snapped. "Stand down." They hesitated, caught between two gravitational pools. A squad leader snarled, "We obey Darkseid alone." Barda's spear moved. The squad leader dropped, a spear tip buried in his chest. The others stared. "Stand down," Barda repeated, voice like a slammed door. "Or you fight me first." A line drew itself in the smoky air. On one side, blind obedience. On the other, a chance, however small, that things could be different. Several parademons lowered their weapons. Others did not. Barda met them with a roar. Down in the pit, the revolt spread. The first shot had taken out a tower. The second, fired by someone else, blew apart the base of a whipping post. A third dropped an overseer who had been stupid enough to step back into view. The slaves surged. It was clumsy and chaotic. They had no formation, no training as a group. Some were too weak to do more than crawl. Others tried to run in all directions at once and crashed into each other. But the key difference was that they were not moving on someone else's command. They were moving because they chose to. A parademon dropped through the shield, having slipped in before Lantern tightened it. He raised his rifle, snarling, eyes glowing. The scarred woman hit him with the butt of her stolen gun. He staggered. The bald scientist swung a length of broken chain. Others piled on, fists and boots and teeth. The parademon disappeared under a tide of bodies. Subord watched via internal sensors, a dozen HUD windows open in his mind. "Hey Bats," he said. "We are officially at crowd control by revolutions, on the checklist." "Good," Batman said. He was braced against a slab of stone, remote detonator in hand. "Then, it is time." He tapped the control. Around the pit, the small devices he had placed earlier lit up blue. They were ugly, cobbled together out of his own tech, and cannibalized bits of Apokolipsian that the tech was missing. As if the tech was not on the pit. They needed to overload, without taking everyone with them. They did. Thin beams of compressed feedback energy shot out from each device, lancing into invisible nodes in the rock. The planet's energy grid screamed. Cyborg fed the overload pattern into his hijacked network command. "Come on," he muttered. "Reboot, you bastard." All across Apokolips, the furnaces dimmed. They did not go out. That would have taken away the only heat some of the lower levels had, and Batman's calculations had not liked the casualty numbers on that. But the flames shrank. The roar became a growl. The oppressive glow cooled from blinding to merely searing. For slaves who had known only the roar, the difference felt like a wind in their lungs. The constant, unending pain of the planet's will pressing down on their skulls eased by a fraction. In that fraction, they found room for another thought. Maybe this can change. Darkseid felt it. His connection to his world was not mystical in the way of some gods, but it was deep and constant. He felt when the furnaces guttered, when factories paused, when slave pits erupted in cries that were not of terror but of anger. He felt Apokolips sliding half a centimeter out of perfect alignment with his will. He roared and drove his fist into Saitama's chest. "Look what you do," he snarled, voice edged with real anger now. "You bring chaos. You undermine order. You encourage weak things to imagine themselves strong." Saitama coughed once as he slid backward, dust kicking up around his boots. "That is the nature of your infection," Darkseid went on, stalking after him. "You think yourself a hero. You are nothing but entropy in human form." Saitama wiped a speck of blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his glove. He stared at it. It was a tiny smear, barely visible. His eyes went wide. "Oh," he said softly. "That is new." Darkseid hesitated. "You bleed," he said. "You can be broken." Saitama flexed his hand. His chest hurt. His ribs ached. His knuckles throbbed. His muscles had that deep, warm burn he remembered from the days when 10 kilometers left him gasping. He thought of all the years spent chasing a feeling like this. He thought of all the nights, wondering if he had broken himself beyond repair, if there was nothing left in the universe that could touch him. He smiled. Not a big grin, just a small, honest, almost shy smile. "Yeah," he said. "I bleed." He raised his fists. "Which means," he added, "I can finally go all out, without worrying I might accidentally punch the universe in half." Darkseid's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" he asked. Saitama took a breath. "Serious series," he said quietly. The air hummed. This time, when he stepped forward, there was no visible aura, no screaming wind. But the stone under his boots cracked in a clean, straight line, with each step, as if refusing to bear his weight without comment. Darkseid's instincts, honed over aeons, suddenly whispered something he did not often hear. Danger. He set his stance, drawing on Apokolips, on Omega, on sheer metaphysical stubbornness. He was Darkseid. He did not bow. He did not fall. He did not lose. Saitama vanished. Even Darkseid lost him for a fraction of a second. He reappeared in front of Darkseid, fist already in motion. "Serious punch," Saitama said. It landed. The previous collisions had been loud. They had cracked the sky and rattled the towers. This one was different. For an instant, there was no sound at all. Then the universe above Apokolips opened. The force of the punch did not just travel through Darkseid's body. It reached behind him, grabbed the very air, and yanked. The clouds, the smoke, the ash, even the dim stars above, bent backward in a long, tunnel-like distortion. A straight line of pure, focused force carved itself through the sky and out into space, sweeping debris and warships aside like dust. In its wake, reality wobbled. Darkseid took the full brunt. His body, tied so tightly to the planet, tried to absorb it. Bones that were not bones snapped. Stone flesh fractured. Cracks spread up his torso, glowing lines of harsh white light. He dug his heels in. For one impossible second, he held. Then he went flying. The god of tyranny left Apokolips. He did not simply fall over, he was launched, propelled along the tunnel of force Saitama had carved. He blasted through the upper atmosphere, trailing chunks of shattered armor and weird light. In orbit, Apocalyptian warships scrambled to get out of the way. They failed. Darkseid smashed through a dreadnought, obliterating it. Fragments spun away at lethal speed. He tumbled onward, out past the edge of the system, out toward the raw, bright riot of the source. The universe reached for him. He grabbed the tug of the source wall and turned it into a spiral, angling his unconscious trajectory along fringes Metron could feel but no one else could see. Metron winced as Darkseid's essence skimmed his awareness like a stone across a pond. Temporary displacement, he murmured. Interesting. He will be back, of course. They never truly get rid of him. But Apokolips will have a gap. Back on the planet, there was a moment of total, shocked quiet. On the dice, Saitama lowered his fist. He let out a long breath. His shoulders sagged. "Whoa," he said. That actually took effort. He touched his chest. His ribs still hurt. He giggled. It was small and undignified and completely sincere. "I am so out of shape," he said. Superman landed beside him, eyes wide as he looked at the tunnel in the sky, slowly filling back in with smoke. "What did you just do?" Superman asked. Saitama scratched his cheek. He said. "Punched him." "No, I mean, that was more than a punch. You knocked Darkseid off Apokolips. I do not even know where he went." "Space?" Saitama said. "Hopefully far enough he has to walk home." Lantern floated down, ring light dim. "I am going to need 3 naps and a pizza after this," he said. "But I am pretty sure my ring just logged that as an extinction-level event." Wonder Woman stepped up, looking around at the damaged pit, the rebels, the cracked sky. "P is gone," she said. "For now." Batman nodded once. "Cyborg," he said, "keep the furnaces at minimum. Lantern, you can drop the shield in stages. We need to stabilize this place before it tears itself apart." "You want to stabilize Apokolips," Lantern said. "On purpose. We cannot free people by killing them with the fallout of their own revolution," Batman said. "We make sure the planet holds together. Then we get as many as we can out, and we leave Darkseid's throne empty for a while." "It will not stay empty," Wonder Woman said. "No," Batman agreed. "But the people here will remember that once it was." He turned to Saitama. "You changed the equation," he said simply. Saitama blinked. "The what?" "Never mind," Batman said. "Question. Do you want to stay in this universe?" Saitama thought about it. On the one hand, new heroes, new villains, a god he could punch this hard. On the other hand, his apartment, his hero registry, Genos's obsessive note-taking, cheap supermarkets, and familiar nonsense. He pictured King standing in front of his TV, trying to beat a boss fight with shaking hands. He pictured the sale sign he had been staring at when all this started. "I should probably get back," he said. "Rent is due soon." Cyborg laughed tiredly. "Man, some things really are universal." Superman looked thoughtful. "If Darkseid could pull you here," he said, "we might be able to trace the dimensional residue back to your world." Metron's voice drifted in before anyone else could speak. "No need," he said. They looked up. Metron's chair slid out of a ripple in the air, parking itself a meter off the ground with zero sense of drama. "I have already logged his origin point," Metron said. "It is interesting. A universe with its own bizarre rules. No speed force, no source. Just an odd, self-contained system and a man who broke it." Saitama frowned. "I am not broken," he said. Metron tilted his head. "Debatable," he said. "Regardless, I can return you." "Why?" Batman asked sharply. Metron smiled faintly. "Because I have seen what happens when forces from one reality linger too long in another," he said. "Cross-contamination, broken stories. And because, in this particular case, the anomaly's presence here will attract things even I would rather not catalogue." He glanced briefly toward the spot in the sky where Darkseid had vanished. "Besides," he added, "I am curious what he will do next in his own environment, now that he knows there can be something that touches him back." "So you are sending me home because you do not want me breaking your comics," he said. Metron blinked slowly. "That is one way to put it." Superman stepped closer. "Saitama," he said, "thank you. You did not have to free these people. You did not have to stand with us. You could have left the moment you arrived." Saitama looked away, embarrassed.
"Yeah, well," he said, "it was on the way. Wonder Woman," she feathed the broken hilt at her belt.
"If you ever find your way back here," she said, "you will have allies." Green Lantern shook his ring hand out, wincing. "And I will have a ring," with a nervous breakdown. Cyborg offered a fist. "Respect not to be special." It's something that we have, and that is what we want to be part. If you ever want to spar, maybe we can set the gravity to half or something, so you do not kill me by accident. Saitama bumped his fist lightly. You are all right, he said. Your planet is weird, though. Batman stepped forward. He studied Saitama for a long second. Contingencies, he said quietly. I need samples to design contingencies. Saitama blinked. Samples. Batman eyed his perfectly bald head. Saitama sighed. He tugged at his glove, pulling it halfway off. A bit of dead skin flaked near his wrist. Batman caught it in a small vial so quickly no one else saw. Thank you, Batman said. Creepy, Saitama said. Metron cleared his throat. Shall we? He asked. Saitama took one last look around. The slave pits were in motion. Lantern's shield had thinned to a shimmering veil, letting people pass through safely. Barda was on the far edge, shouting orders, pointing newly freed groups towards safer ground. Parademons hovered, uncertain. Those who had lowered their weapons, now holding their ground, as if waiting to see which way this new world would tilt. Apokolips still burned. But some of the fire now came from inside the people who lived there. Saitama nodded once, satisfied, in a way he could not have explained if someone asked. Okay, he said. Send me home. Metron's chair hung. Blue-white circuits lit up along its edges, tracing a pattern that tugged at the fabric of reality. A portal opened, not like a boom tube, but something smoother, tuned to Saitama's particular vibe. It smelled faintly of City Z. Saitama glanced at Superman. Hey, he said. You're pretty strong. You should eat more hot pot, though. Put on some real muscle. Superman smiled. I will keep that in mind. Saitama stepped toward the portal. See you, he said. Then he was gone. The hole in reality closed. Metron lingered a fraction of a second longer, eyes turned toward the bruised sky of Apokolips. Statistically, he said, this should not have happened. Batman looked up at him. And yet here we are. Yes, Metron said. Here you are. A planet on the verge of something else. A tyrant flung into the dark. And a bald man in a cheap suit, back in a universe that never knew how close it came to losing him. He smiled once, a very small smile. How interesting, he said. Then he too was gone. Saitama stumbled out of the portal, onto a very familiar sidewalk. He caught himself with a little hop, looked around, and blinked. City Z. Same cracked pavement, same leaning buildings, same trash skittering along the curb in the breeze. The sky was blue. There were no rivers of magna, no chained souls powering more factories, no Omega beams trying to rewrite his existence. He looked over his shoulder. The portal snapped shut with a soft pop, like someone taking a jar lid off and putting it back. Sound rushed in where it had been. Car horns, a dog barking, a kid yelling about a sale. Saitama turned. He was standing half a block from the discount mart. The big red sign over the window read, Mega Sale today. The purple fire portal was gone. In its place, just glass and tape, and a handwritten sign that said, Half off beef. Last day. Saitama stared. Then he ran. He reached the door in a blur, yanked it open, and almost crashed into the clerk. Ah, welcome, the guy said. You are in a hurry. Saitama grabbed the basket and hustled to the meat section. There, glowing in the harsh refrigerator light, like a treasure in a godless universe, were the discounted beef packs. He scooped several into his basket, trying not to look too desperate. He bought leeks too, out of habit. At the register, the clerk scanned his items. You look like you had a long day, he said casually. Saitama thought about that. About portals and fire pits. About a world built on suffering. About Darkseid's face cracking under his fist. About Superman's hand on his shoulder in the middle of an anti-life attack. About a planet holding itself together while its people screamed for something better. He thought about the tiny smear of blood he had wiped off his mouth. He smiled faintly. Yeah, he said. Got some exercise. The clerk nodded. That is good for you, he said absently. That will be 1,980 yen. Saitama winced. Even on sale, huh? He paid. He walked home with the bag swinging at his side. cape fluttering a little in the breeze. The sky started to turn orange as the sun headed down. On his way, he passed a newsstand. The headline on a hero magazine caught his eye. "Strange dimensional tremor detected," it said in smaller print. Experts baffled. No damage reported. There was a blurry satellite image next to it that looked, if you squinted, like a cracked, burning world far away, with a faint tunnel line reaching out into the darkness. Saitama paused. He stared at it for a long second. Then he shrugged. "Someone else's universe," he said. "They will handle it." He went upstairs to his apartment. Inside, things were exactly as he had left them. Cheap couch, small TV, hero costume hanging on a hook, a stack of flyers he kept meaning to throw away. He put the groceries away. He took one of the beef packs back out. He heated a pan, tossed the meat in, added leeks, salt, whatever he had lying around. The smell filled the little room, cozy and ordinary. He sat down with his bowl. He took a bite. It was not amazing. The meat was a bit tough. The leeks were a little overcooked. He chewed anyway. He thought about Darkseid's face when the serious punch landed, about the way the slaves had looked up at him in the pit, about Superman saying friends. He swallowed. You know, he said aloud to no one, "Not a bad day." He ate another bite. Out in the multiverse, Darkseid tumbled through the dark, his essence already knitting itself back together, his mind cold and calculating. He remembered the punch. He remembered the way his beams had curved uselessly around that infuriatingly calm man. He remembered feeling something he had not felt in a very long time. He would return. He would adjust. He would add one bold hero's name to the long list of things he intended to break. But for now, Apokolips burned without him. And on a small world, in another reality, a hero who called himself just a guy who was a hero for fun, finished his dinner, rinsed his bowl, and wondered if there would be coupons in tomorrow's paper. He hoped so. Being a hero did not pay much. He flopped down on the couch, turned on the TV, and let the background noise wash over him. Somewhere above, a star in another universe flared brighter for a moment as two realities brushed. Saitama scratched his cheek. "Man," he said, "I hope tomorrow is boring." He meant it. He really did. But sometimes the universe heard that and smiled.